The seed is planted and the terror grows. Welcome back to another episode. I'm your host, Vincent Green.
I'm your host, Noel John Tui.
And this is Invasion Polly Snatch. And this week we're going post-apocalyptic with the Last of Us from Neil Druckmann. You know, the fucking HBO just recently adapted the famous PlayStation 2 game. The games were iconic. The show has the makings maybe of being an iconic show. But Noel, what was your relationship with first the source material, the two games on the PlayStation, and then what was your expectations of the show from HBO?
You know, that's the thing. When I played the game, first game years ago, so I couldn't remember everything. Second game, not so long ago, do remember everything. And it's that thing where bands run into it quite often. If a Metallica release an album, if it's not enough like the old stuff, then they've sold out. But if it's not new enough, they've sold out. And I think this runs into that, where you need to be really close to the source material, or why bother? Or like if you're just going to make a play-by-play of the game,
Why
why bother?
Mm.
And I think they did it really well. I think that third episode especially was kind of this big, for me, I know.
With Nick Offerman.
Yeah, with Nick Offerman, the survivalist, the gay survivalist couple. And it's touched upon in the game in a very different kind of outer way. It's touched upon without being addressed.
Yeah.
And they had an episode on it. It was brilliant. And then it ties, sometimes it ties right back in with the game. I mean, dialogue. I've watched side by sides of some of the Joel, kind of Joel in the game and Joel in the show and stuff. And but all in all, I loved it. I really, really did. I thought it was a labor of love. I thought the scenery was a 10.5 out of 10.
Yeah.
It was spectacularly well done. And yeah, I just loved it. All I know is I was really. It reminded me, because you know the way you get everything released in like blocks now, you just get your season of whatever the Netflix kind of. It really made me annoyed when it was over on a Monday night and I had to wait a week for it. It's been a long time since I felt that in a real passionate way, where I'm like, damn, it's the longest possible time till I get to watch Last of Us again.
There's a theory about that, and they say like it affects Stranger Things place in the zeitgeist sometimes because in pop culture. Because they all drop at once, and I think that's why Netflix did a more of a delayed release in the last couple of seasons. But when they all drop at once, is they have their moment in the sun, and then
huge moment,
huge moment.
But it's a day and a half.
Yeah, it's like it's 4 weeks. But
but me and you watching it weekend, a single weekend done.
But you know what I mean though, like but at the most, I mean it's the main thing for about a month, right?
Yeah, correct.
But a show like The Last of Us, because it's episodic in terms of its weekly release, it lasts for double the amount because it's 9 weeks. You know what I mean? So there is a theory behind episodic releases actually creating a longevity for the relevancy of the show. Throughout the year and throughout the primetime seasons and stuff. And that's why you see Disney have the Mandalorians episodic, HBO, even though they're streaming episodic. Stuff like Yellow Jackets, I think, was episodic as well, or instead of it being a mass drop. And I think we'll still get that's Netflix's kind of calling card, and they're kind of stuck with that now. But when you have the likes of Disney and Amazon and all these other shows, all these other streaming services, they do episodic releases, and I think it does actually increase, even though it's a bitch not being able to all watch it in one go. But we get to do that at the end of the season anyway, or you can get to do
that's it. Yeah, it's the instant gratification that we've kind of become used to and even entitled to, or the sense of entitlement to word it better. And but I do think that when you drag it out, obviously, like it becomes. Like you said, if it's all watched in 1 or 2 days, it's a thing for a month. But what if it takes 2 months to watch?
Exactly.
And then it's a thing for a month.
Yeah.
Now we've got 3 months.
Yeah, exactly.
That is a quarter of a year. That is a whole thing.
That 3 months buys you into your next big release.
And don't forget, I also think that the brain can kind of... I took in the first episode. I took in the second episode. There's something about like a Stranger Things, and I watch it like all. Yeah. And then there's 2 years where I don't get it. And then I come back and I was like,
oh, do you not watch it back in the meantime?
I actually, between the first and second season, I didn't, and between the other seasons, I did. But I'm just saying when but no, see, I thought I between the first and second season, I thought I was good. Yeah. I said, no, I can jump straight back into this. It's going to be fine. And I was like, oh, he did die. No, he did die. No, I remember him now. And then there was characters that I forgotten altogether, and it was just such a huge. It was too long, man. I was away for too long, and there is something about like processing an episode, then processing an episode. I know for a long time I'm going to remember this episode of Last of Us and this episode of Last of Us. It was very sectional. That was like a journey from A to
like
B.
the chapters in the game.
And the chapters in the game. And then it obviously had 2 with Ellie and her best friend slash first crush, Riley. And then you had the Nick Offerman, Bob and
Fred.
Bob and Frank. No. Yeah, something like it escapes me. But
if only we could find out. You keep talking.
If only it was even possible. But it had those 2 episodic kind of departures. But everything else was quite linear, and it stuck in with the game. But I also felt like I digested it very much so weeks apart, instead of just eating it like you do these documentary series on Netflix or something, where it's essentially one block of entertainment.
Binge watching, like,
oh God, it's crazy. I'm not against it.
Was it Perry? No, Perry.
Who didn't? Just Nick Offerman, Last of Us will get you. But I thought that episode was absolutely stupendous. I thought
Bill.
And I Bella Ramsey. I didn't realize they're both in Game of Thrones. Bella Ramsey and Pedro Pascal.
Yeah,
Pedro Pascal got killed in Game of Thrones. I said this on a previous podcast. Pedro Pascal got killed in Game of Thrones. I thought he was very charismatic. I thought he was a very good actor, and I felt terrible for him. As I said, that's it. Now this could be like, because this is what the acting game is for 90+% of actors, 99% plus of actors, is that you get that break. But like, he wasn't in it long enough to really make an impact. And it was like, the poor fucker. Like, this is it now. He's out and he's done. You cannot escape Pedro Pascal.
He's in The Mandalorian and The Last of Us.
He's in The Mandalorian and The Last of Us.
At this moment, like you know what I mean?
Like there's no escape in Pedro Pascal. He's like the Anna Taylor-Joy of men. He's
I'm pretty sure
Hollywood is not a very clever place. The people behind the scenes are extremely clever, but the people who make decisions are not. They decide that like 5 people are going to be in things.
Yeah, man. Anna Taylor-Joy, I'm pretty sure for the entire episode of The Menu, I called her Anna Joy Taylor. I'm pretty sure. I was watching it back in the edit, and I was like, "Fuck, shit, oh no, no."
Something tells me that she's just going to rise above it somehow.
Yeah,
and she's going to watch it. 100%.
Of course, she's going to watch it.
That's a fact.
Yeah, well, I tagged her in the episode. I put the hashtag, and I'm sure she searches her hashtags. Like,
exactly.
You know what I mean?
Like, and we're like the first one that would come up. Yeah.
But I think I said this.
Pedro Pascal, you get it.
I think I said this to you before, dude, but the most unrealistic thing for me in the apocalypse was the meeting that Chef Boyardee's.
As in, I'm willing to accept that we become mushroom zombies.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, as I said, man, I might have mentioned this to you in a previous conversation, but who's making it? Who's doing the labeling? Like, who's continuing on that legacy?
You remember Ed Sheeran in Game of Thrones? Yeah. Remember just kind of going like, I love leaving my thinking cap at the door. I love just getting immersive.
Yeah.
And it's fine. Like, I know that there's no dragon, there's a camera there, there's people working special effects.
Wait, what?
Actors, all of that.
Wheel it back. What was that?
If you're not ready, you're not ready. But there is just something to somehow, and it's always something dumb that takes you out of it.
Yeah.
And just makes you feel like you're on the set.
Something necessary.
Like you can see, but it just takes you out of it, and it's why I'm actually never been a fan of it's not true, but I'm not always a fan of bloopers, because I went online, I watched a load of, when I was watching Frasier constantly, and I went online and watched bloopers, and you could see, like, somebody laughs and the boom mic comes down too far, and then it pulls back and you see the set, and I was kind of like, all of a sudden, like, don't get me wrong, I knew it was a set, I just didn't need to see it or something. There was something that created a disconnect, and it's funny, it's always something dumb. And for you, it was that.
Yeah, well, it's this.
For me, it was Ed Sheeran in Game of Thrones. He actually did a good job. I'm not. There's no beef.
No, he didn't.
I just.
He did. Well, like Ed Sheeran's a world class singer. Well, he does not need to be in Game of Thrones. It's just
he didn't need to be in Game of Thrones. He was what's her face as Maisie Williams' favorite whatever.
He was a Lannister or something, wasn't he? No, he was definitely wearing Lannister armor anyway.
That a soldier, like, but not a Lannister himself. Yeah.
But what you call it? What were we talking about a second ago before you went in that fucking Game of Thrones fucking rant?
Probably Last of Us, because and that's what the podcast is about.
Yeah, no, something more specific than that. But anyway, like
Frasier.
Did you say Frasier?
Yeah, I was talking about like the Frasier blooper reel where you see all the
Oh yeah.
yeah.
I was just gonna say, yeah, I used to watch this show called Saints Is Stupid. It used to be on fucking Bravo or some shit. But like I used to watch it and I used to watch it so much. I used to laugh so hard that it's all blooper reels. But like they frame it in the sense that we're going to examine the scientific mistakes they made in how they made their blooper. You know what I mean? It's just fucking stupid. Like it's just the way they framed it. So it's called Science is Stupid. It's a blooper reel show. Man, I used to laugh so hard at that show. Like that, I nearly like woke my kid up one time. Like you know what I mean? I was just like laughing my face off, like literally like in the room down the hall from her. Like the parents like shut the fuck up. like that. So I do enjoy. I enjoy watching people fall on their faces, but like get back to last was like, but like when I played these games in the PlayStations, I came to them a little bit later. I have the remastered edition of part one. I didn't play it in its original release, but I played it on the first remastered edition. I didn't play the original, the newest remake that they made because, like, I'm not going to keep buying the same game, lads. Make new shit. You know what I mean? Grand Theft Auto 5, like lads, like how many times you going to release it? Like seriously, Skyrim. How many times you going to release Skyrim? But like, but how many times you going to release The Last of Us? I'm not going to keep buying it. So I played the remastered edition, and I only played it for the first time 2 or 3 years ago. As it came too late, I'm an Xbox dude. Like first and foremost, was for the last few years. I was originally a PlayStation player, and then I switched over to Xbox for a while, and I kind of stayed with them. And I didn't have a PlayStation for. I didn't really. I owned a PS1, PS2, no PS3, and now I own a PS4. And one of the main reasons I really wanted to get a PlayStation was to play the Last of Us games. And so these games have been built up for me. Thankfully, they were never ruined on me. Part two had just come out literally a couple of months before I played part one. That's how long I waited. So it was like 6 or 7 years. So I played it like 2019, 2020, something like that. 2020, I think it was something like that. So I came to these games late, and I just thought when you played these games, and I played them back to back, so maybe not a lot of people had the same experience as me, but I thought they were completely emotionally draining. And
Oh my God.
I thought the
Second one
story,
was a red wedding every
yeah,
half hour.
yeah, I thought the games themselves were world class. They were so
World
player
class.
friendly. The storytelling was perfect. I loved the second game. I know a lot of people it has its detractors, but
Oh, not from me. Oh no, I thought it was
for
heavy,
me,
but I loved it.
the only thing I didn't feel from the show that I felt from the game was the connection with Ellie and Joel, and simply because of time management. And I'm going to frame this like this because when you've nine
I think you might be
episodes,
onto something here. I want to see how you word this,
so
but I think you might be onto something.
when you've 9 episodes and you are trying to pretty much adapt a 30-hour game, give or take, was it 25, 30 hours long,
Well,
something like that?
how long was the actual
The first game, like give or take, but just say
the
even if
actual cutscenes were X amount of time and added 20% to that because a lot of the action did bleed into the game as well.
yeah, but you know what I mean. So when you're trying to adapt a computer game, and it's why it's always so hard to do, and it's why long form storytelling like TV series and streaming services are the best way to adapt them. In my opinion, I've been saying this for years. And it's not movies because of the length of the game. You want to be immersed in the world, okay? So when you have a game that's already exists in the story and the relationship that's already exist with Joel and Ellie, that is given so much time to flourish in the games, especially part one, all right, because it's all central focus with them. And part two, I don't want to give away any spoilers, but there's changes. So when you have 9 episodes and you're trying to adapt a game, if it's not 30 hours, it's 15 hours, you're trying to adapt that game, and you've got 2 episodes that are not actually part of the game, that gives you 7 episodes to construct the central focus of your TV series, which is the relationship between Joel and Ellie, your lone wolf and the young cub. It's a trope that's been done forever. He's doing it on Mandalorian right now with Grogu. So like I'm just saying is if you got 7 hours of television or even 8, considering I think a couple of them are over an hour long, it's not enough time to give me the same relationship that the game did. Like I think Bella Ramsey is a fantastic actor. Pedro Pascal is one of the best actors out there at the moment, right? But I just think the game did a better job because it gave us up more time in fleshing out the stakes and the relationship and the evolution of the relationship. Your screen's gone all fucking blurry, dude. But
Sorry, man.
it's okay again now. But like I just think the game, because it gave more time. So when I looked at this and I was like seeing episode 3, Nick Offerman amazing in it. The relationship between the two dudes was beautifully written. It was very
Oh my
cleverly
God, it
done.
was
It
their
was a
love, and
heart
that
wrenching
was
episode, like you know what I mean. And all that, like episode 1 and 2, I thought was perfection. because we're so close to the game. But episode 3, even though it has all its strengths, in terms of what did it do for the narrative?
Yes, you see, I agree with that. I was
very little. So right, so when you go
yeah.
now, you have one episode ticked off. Now you got 8 episodes, and then you have Ellie's episode later on with Riley. That's an entire episode, which is based on seemingly downloadable content for part
I
one.
had this. I was at the bar.
Yeah,
I was at the Jeremiah Grant's and in town, one of our locals, and I was talking to the barman. I said that wasn't in the game, and it was explained to me that.
yeah.
So I played the game, and I was like, explained. No, it was. It was the
Downloadable
downloadable
content.
content
Yeah,
afterwards. I guess I was too
yeah.
like done with it or
So
something.
what I want to know is, did they feel that there was more holes in the story for the game in terms of character development than we originally anticipated as people that played the game ourselves? So I just think that the episode run should have been longer, and in the last episode would have had way more impact. The last 2 episodes, in my opinion, where Ellie fights for her life and saves Joel, who has one of the quickest recoveries of all time thanks to antibiotics. Antibiotics are world class in the apocalypse over there. But you know
Oh
what I
yeah.
mean? But I just think
But it's
that,
like getting a green leaf and a red leaf in
yeah,
Resident Evil, man. It's
yeah,
you know,
yeah,
you mix that shit together.
yeah. But I just think that like they should have given themselves more time to develop the character relationships between Joel and
Agreed.
Ellie, and the game gave themselves more time, obviously, because games are usually longer. But you have a TV series and you have HBO, it's big production. And they didn't, I don't think they gave themselves enough episodes, which was a criticism I had of them for Game of Thrones,
I think
because
it's a
you got
fair
so many
criticism.
split wheels. So you
I
take
find it
away,
hard to push back against that. I
yeah,
even find it hard to play devil's advocate.
yeah. So you take
I
away episode 3 and you take away the episode of Riley, and
six or seven,
7
yeah.
episodes, and the first episode is pretty much nearly, the first half is about Joel and his backstory with his daughter Sarah. Like,
That's a good point.
So
That's a good point. I didn't, and I know
yeah,
that was a 1.5 length,
yeah, but you know
one
what I
and three
mean,
quarter
though.
length
Like,
episode.
that's
But you're absolutely right. But it was also vital. Don't get me wrong. You
oh, of
can't
course it's
really
vital.
have a pop at them about that. But it's also true in the overall. And you're right. There was, especially
12 episodes. I think they should have been
the
12
second
episodes.
game where
Something
I'm
like
actually sorry. I'm going to try and think of a non-spoiler way to say it, but where a lot of the revelations of the first come out, and there was just a huge gravity of Ellie and Joel having a relationship that was so hard to put a word on, because it's complete, of course, it's completely and totally platonic, and it's a love, but it's a love born from experience and hardship and difficult choices, and there was a pause sometimes before they spoke to each other, and I remember because I watched some of the clips just recently, and it was just a pause, and she was like, "Tell me what happened here."
Yeah.
And then he pauses, and he goes, "They were." He pauses again. I remember just going, "God, it's so real to me."
Do you remember
they had earned it? Their relationship is so powerful that, to me, like on the outside, I'm like, even when they're not talking, it's just that their opinions of each other are so profoundly powerful that everything is shifting. I don't know. And you're right. And I think like the actors were good enough to find that.
Yeah.
But if you were like, shit, dude, I only have, you're telling me that, like, okay, so like when I have Ellie with Riley, that's obviously nothing to do with the relationship with Joel. Doesn't matter how good the actors are. It doesn't matter anything. Joel isn't in the picture at all. And if you're telling me Nick Offerman, fantastic episode, phenomenal episode, but Joel and Ellie aren't in the picture at all. The actors can't evolve in scenes they're not in.
Yeah, exactly. There could have been a split that story in half, Joel and Ellie being a side story and that being another side story, you know what I mean? I just think HBO have been guilty of poor time management before Game of Thrones. And I think like if you're adapting a game that's so long, like I just think you need 10 or 12 episodes at least, like, because when Joel is saving Ellie at the like in the finale, when Joel is doing it, and it's almost identical to the climax of the game, but like you don't feel the same impact when when you're obviously, you're controlling Joel or whatever in the game, but when
I said that to Sheila, that it felt
rushed.
Suddenly felt rushed.
Yeah.
Because from when the flashbang or whatever it was that was thrown at them, when they're like kind of coming out onto the facility, to that, and then to Marlene talking to Joel and him getting walked out and him turning on the guys, blah, blah, blah. But he just kills his way through the building. And I remember just kind of joking, it's casual enough, isn't it?
Yeah.
Kind of like, like it's kind of like him like going up a stairs and taking on a small army is like me trying to walk 4 flights of stairs. Just like getting there. You know what I mean? little bit of a struggle, but I'm getting there, you know.
What
And
did you make of the lack of clickers and bloaters and all the stuff from the game?
you know what I mean. I have to say, when the blower, something, you know, like it's like that joke. If less is more, just imagine how much more is.
Yeah,
But when the one time we saw a blower, I thought it was so impactful.
yeah.
And sometimes if you can, like, there was a degree where if they went saturated, they wouldn't have had that. And I loved when the blower actually showed up in
It was
episode 1.
terrifying.
Terrifying.
It was
It
the
was so hard to kill. Five or five. I'm going to take a
four or
stab at it.
five, yeah, 4 or 5.
4 or 5. And it was beautiful. And they come out of the ground and they've all been waiting down there for years. And it was huge. So yeah, I would have liked to see a little bit more of them, but I have to say that I'd rather have a scene be incredibly impactful rather than just be bombarded.
I would have liked to see a couple more clickers though.
Oh, a couple more clickers for sure. That's the thing. The blower was such a huge thing for me, but clickers, sure, because the scene with the clickers was great. But even after Tess died, I don't think we got a clicker, did we? There was just 2 clickers, I think, in that episode.
Yeah,
not clickers. Like, well, there was the whole, again, the scene with the blower and they come out of the ground, but they were all like feral.
No, there was a clicker in that episode, but I can't remember if another one appeared, and that's bad. Like, we should be able to remember off the top of our heads if there's a fucking other clicker in the series.
It's story heavy, but that's the thing about the game as well. It's not like Halo.
But it's a character study set in a horrific world, and this was a horrific world, but like they focus too much on the human aspect. Like, like the whole what makes your story unique is the cordyceps fungi infected people. We like any post-apocalyptic world can have people that are bad. Walking Dead has it, Road of Eli has it, The Road has like all these worlds, right, are going to be infested with bad people. What makes your story unique? And one of the big selling points this last of us was the whole cordyceps and fungi infected people, because it was like a new take on zombies. And I know they changed the whole idea of how it spread with spores, but I thought that was really, really cool in the games when you had to go around with gas masks and stuff. Your screen's going all weird again. But
sorry.
But like, you know what I mean? So I just think that the issues I had with this was it didn't lean enough on its uniqueness, its ingredients that made the game. Like the whole what was so terrifying about the game was these monsters were like different than what you normally accustomed to seeing, and how they were evolved or how they were mutated by the fungi, because it's not something you normally see. Like it's different than a cancer tumor. It's different than what we're normally seeing in human biomes or the human genetic makeup, how we get attacked by these things that create mutations within us. It's very different because it's almost plant-like, you know what I mean? So, and that's why you have this like beautiful grotesqueness that was very unique to the games, and it didn't really give me enough of that in the show. Like, and don't get me wrong, I loved the show. I thought it was a beautiful.
I loved it as well.
Bella Ramsey's a top level actor. I thought she did a great job as Ellie. I thought she did she grew into the role beautifully as the show went along. She carried episode 8 terrifically the whole way through the episode. She's a fantastic
slight goofiness
actor.
to her. Yeah, it was a great departure from everything that was happening around them.
Yeah, but Ellie was like that in the first game too. She was.
Yeah, she was a kid. Like, you know, she was processing and doing.
I think she captured, like, people talking about her appearance. You don't need to look like a character to capture the essence of her character. I think she captured the essence of Ellie pretty fucking well. Like, you know what I mean? And she'll only grow as she gets more and more time with the character.
Yeah,
like, you know what I mean? Anna Torv is an actor that in Fringe who played Olivia Dunham, I think was her character's name in it. And I used to say, like, she was one of the perfect examples of letting an actor just grow into a role, because she's a little bit rusty. You can tell her she's getting, like, who's this character I'm inhabiting, whatever, the first few episodes. But she's one of the strongest things about it in the later seasons. And I think that's going to be a case of Bella Ramsey, because, like, everybody knows Pedro Pascal's strengths, but Bella Ramsey, like, she's less exposed and she only had Game of Thrones. And then she had all this backlash because she looked different than the character that doesn't even exist in reality, which I thought was insanity. Like, so, you know what I mean? So, like, what I think she's doing now, she's doing a great job of growing into the role. Because she's 19 in real life and she's playing a 14-year-old, there shouldn't be any issues with doing time jumps or having her stay the character she ages. So it's like, I think she's well casted. Pedro Pascal, you could put him in fucking a jar of jam and that dude like winning awards or something. Like, so it's easy to see what he was going to do, but I just think my major issues, apart from the Chef Boyardee with the TV show, is not enough monsters, not enough. Give me your uniqueness. What's unique about your post-apocalyptic world? And amongst so many of them right now, there's so many post-apocalyptic worlds that we're all experiencing. Like, no, let's look at the one that we're almost living in.
We've seen, yeah,
but you know,
we've seen them. Like it's been going on since the 50s. The post-apocalyptic,
and what makes The Last of Us unique was the cordyceps fungus, your clickers, your bloaters, all your special fucking weird zombies. The aesthetics of your world is what makes you your monsters. The aesthetics of your monsters what made you unique.
It's a good point.
And you veered away from it too much because you were so focused on the character study, which I know Neil Druckmann really got obsessed with in part 2, and it was a heavy character study. The game is very emotionally taxing, but he still had the creature features. And at the end of the day, The Last of Us can be a character story, can be a post-apocalyptic world, it can be many things, but at the end of the day, it's a creature feature. And that's what it should be at the heart of it all. A creature feature with all these layers of class added on top of it. Like the thing. Like creature features can be classy. And that's what The Last of Us forgot. It was classy, but it forgot to be a creature feature for a lot of it for me.
That's a fair point. And I think the point that really hits home, well, it's something the creature feature thing is a good point, and it really, really hit home. But the other thing that I definitely thought about myself was that you have this much time.
Yeah.
And it's about Ellie and Joel.
Yeah.
Get them together, make them a unit, make him his surrogate daughter, because that's what she becomes, and him his surrogate father.
And don't have Joel laying around for like 2 episodes.
Also close in a way that even you and your daughter are like, they literally take on cannibals, zombies. They cut their way across the fucking the country to get to where they need to go. You know, but like that's a kind of bond that is incredible, and especially when it's done well, and they told the story beautifully. But you're right. I like time management is actually the thing I think you fucking really nailed. I really do.
I think it's so important. If you're doing a short run, time management is huge. And I thought one of the best examples of that was Stranger Things season 4. They had a set amount of episodes. They made them as long as they possibly could, whenever they could, and they told as much story as possible. They covered as much ground. They didn't leave anything like off the table. And I think what you have a game, you have a story that's already pre-exists, and you know how long it took to tell that story the first time, and what you focused on and what made that story special should be the central focus of the second. And I know Joel and Ellie is the central focus of this TV show, but there's too many times where you're wasting an hour, and I don't mean this in a bad way, because episode 3 with Dick Offerman is a fantastic episode, but I didn't serve the narrative because they got his truck. Amazing. All right. But like, and then you have the DLC.
Right. It's very beautiful in and of itself.
Yeah.
But maybe, but it didn't push the narrative of
exactly.
the Ellie and Joel story. Yeah, that's fair. And that's not even shitting on anything.
I think with Ellie and her backstory, Riley, and I understand it's all about her coming to grips with her sexuality, and it's all about her becoming infected and realizing she's immune. I think that could have been told in flashbacks throughout the season.
Yes.
Little snippets here or there, little flashbacks here or there. It didn't need to be a whole episode.
Like when she's holding her knife, and maybe it's the knife she killed her with, and then when she's,
you know what I mean? And then you have the reoccurring theme throughout the season of Ellie coming to terms with her sexuality in this world as well. Like in terms of not only is she coming to terms with her immunity and what that means in terms of her role in this world, but she's coming to terms with her sexuality. So I think if you have that as flashbacks as a reoccurring theme that's running through it, and in the last episode or second last episode, you see her making a sacrifice, she kills Ellie and she realizes she's immune right before you have your climax. I think it really would have hit home, because you'd see her original sacrifice and her finding her immunity, and then you find out the sacrifice she's about to make for humanity in the finale. You know what I mean? And I think there were so many times where you could have really balanced your time differently by using flashbacks, using little things here and there, and at the same time, give us a few more monsters, keep the story focused on Joel and Ellie, and don't have Joel lying around for 90 minutes or two episodes, an episode and a half. He's lying around injured. Come on. Like, you got Pedro Pascal there, and you have him laying, like, recuperating. Have him recuperate for half an episode. Like, have him get injured.
Came back strong.
He came back real strong.
He came back
real strong. He was like Mandalorian all of a sudden, wasn't he, man? Like,
exactly. Yeah, he stabbed the dude in the heart, and then
that was my favorite episode.
Hit him with a lead pipe. I was just, don't worry, I believe him. I love that line. Love that line.
That's my favorite episode the whole season. I think Bella Ramsey really shone in that episode. Like,
oh God, yeah. Oh God, yeah, she was You're right. She really did.
Yeah, because she
got to
carried it.
freak out. She got to be put into mortal peril with no one to save her.
Yeah,
and she got to overcome it. But she also got to get hit because she is still a child in this world. She got to hit by the absolute gravity of it.
that's when she became Ellie for me in episode 8.
Yeah,
yeah. That's when her. That's like sometimes you see an actor and they become all like it's so settled in the role, and you're just like, yes, that's it. And I thought she really embodied Ellie in that episode because Ellie is always a fighter, like she's a struggler. You have to do a lot to kill Ellie, like you know what I mean. Like that's the whole thing. Even in part 1, like even when she's just a kid, she's a survivor. At the end of it all, that's what she is. That's her makeup. And I thought that episode was Bella Ramsey doing her best work as Ellie so far. I thought.
absolutely. That was definitely her coming into her own and definitely finding her space. And also like her flavor of kind of what the biggest scene for Ellie in the entire first game for sure. And she really made use of it. I have to say, I was so proud of her by the end of it. She was just fantastic. Like she really is going to be a great actress. She really
Bella
is.
Ramsey, in my opinion, shorty is like, you know.
Yeah, actually, you know what? I'm selling her short because she is, and despite the fact she's playing a 14-year-old girl, she actually is a young woman, and so she's already well on her career. But you're absolutely right. She found herself even when like the guy's giving her the food and she kicks it away and she confronts him over the cannibalism. Just a great scene. Just a great.
You know what I mean? Like when she was given real opportunity, not because everyone's like she had great chemistry with Pedro Pascal. But like, she's very good at creating chemistry with actors that she doesn't share a lot of screen time with, and that's a very like rare strength, and it's a very strong thing to have when you're a TV actor, because you're constantly being interplaying with different actors all the time, and she's very good at creating instantaneous chemistry, and it's a rarity. Like, and people have to give her more credit for how she portrayed Ellie because it's very hard to portray a pre-existing character, especially one so as iconic as Ellie from Last Was One and Two.
That's the thing. You're up against it before you utter a word.
Yeah.
You're up against it. The second you're seeing chained to a radiator, I think is our first introduction. But she was already up against it.
Before we get out here, I want to talk to you a little bit about like some of the what's the word I'm looking for, but some of the how faithful it was. Its faithfulness to the
when
the
it
game.
Tied back in, it tied way back in.
What did you think of like some of the shots? Like because anybody has seen the shots online now about the side for side images, the play for play videos, all this kind of stuff. Did you think they did a really good job of being faithful to the game when they could?
Yes. And I think when you have the one thing I will say, and I agreed with all your points about the deviations. The one thing you can say when you have deviations is that when you tie back into the source material, you're allowed to tie back in, I believe, very close to the source material. And people aren't to say like, oh, you're not a bit close to the source material, because you're allowed to say, well, which one fucking is it?
Yeah, because you have to make it for a new audience and an old
audience.
Yeah.
And well, which one is it? Am I taking too many liberties and gone off too far, or am I too close? Like, which one is it?
Yeah.
And so this time when they cut back in, they cut back in for the shit kicking stuff.
Yeah.
And I love that. I even remember when Marlene, of course, those spoiler warnings have been in effect this entire time. But even when she was like, just no, let me live. And he goes, no, you just come after us, and just bullet in the head.
Yeah.
Like, you know, it was really, really, really. And one of my favorite scenes is just like, where's the operating room? And he doesn't answer straight away. And he goes, I don't have time for this. Gunshot in the lower tummy, like, you know.
Lower tummy. The least aggressive way you could have said that.
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, like through his colon or something.
I mean, he's lower whoopsie doo.
If you don't tell me soon, I'm going to become a wascal. But some of the kills, God, it was brutal. Like, you know, it's brutal. But the fact of the matter is, I think it's great that I was like, oh no, we need to do it our way. But also somebody said, is there something wrong with the dialogue? Because the dialogue in Last of Us was brilliant.
Yeah, you dropped a fantastic writer.
Brilliant.
And they got
brilliant. So just use that.
Chris Mazan was the guy they brought in from Chernobyl as well, who co-created it.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's so cool.
Let me check. Craig Mazin. So Craig Mazin, yeah, he was. Chernobyl is brilliant, except for all the English accents, but whatever. He's like, oh, you want me to come out there? I've been working in Donetsk my whole life, man. It's like, dude, you're clearly from England. Like, my accent is atrocious, but like you know what I mean? Like, that's the only thing that really annoyed me. And then there's Stellan Skarsgård. Stellan Skarsgård is just the only dude doing a Russian accent the whole movie. I'm just like, okay, why is everybody got a British accent? Not every Russian actor. Pretty sure were like, we could have got some Eastern European actors.
Oh my come on.
Yeah, exactly. That was that really annoyed me.
What's the dude that was in the Black Widow film? The English actor that played Beowulf.
Ray Winston.
And Stone was about to say something Stone. Yeah. Ray Winston, and he was like, "Oh, I'm a Russian geezer, drinking vodka.
Vodka, man.
In it. Fucking brilliant. The guy is so fucking so English, like aggressively English. You just can't. Yeah. But I know. Sorry, how do we get here?
We're talking about Craig Mazin, the guy who created Chernobyl and co-created Last of Us for HBO.
Yeah, I knew I'd seen his name in a bunch of places, but
in the intros probably.
Yeah, in the intros. Yeah.
So we talked about the creatures, we talked about the post-apocalyptic world, we talked about the faithfulness to the game. We both agree on a lot of points, or some points we don't agree on. But what did you think of the table setter? And I want to talk about the James Nesbitt Cordyceps fungi intro, where he's on it goes to a quick flashback. It's like the 60s or 70s, where he talks about
it was very 70s. It was
cigarettes. He's talking to Big Eddie. If anybody's ever seen Silicon Valley, Big Ed, but like Nelson Big Eddie. So he's talking to Big Eddie, who probably Big Eddie's father, because Big Eddie's have a long fucking history of failing upwards. So like it's probably Nelson Big Eddie's father, right? So like, what did you make of this intro where they explain Cordyceps fungus to us, the world, the audience, anybody who didn't know about it?
I thought it was so well done, because it had that whole thing where first they laugh at you, that kind of thing, that old expression.
Yeah.
And then he was like, yeah, I agree, it can't happen. But what if the world got a bit warmer?
Yeah.
What if, what if this 1, 2, 3 kind of things would happen? And he just carried himself in such a powerful way. And you love when somebody knows that
he's such a talented actor, though. James says
they're only going to be in one scene, so he's such a talented actor. He just owned it.
Yeah,
it just set it up so beautifully, and then it doesn't connect with any of the rest of the film. As in, it's not like a tape that Joel comes across or something like that. This is literally just something
exposition
just for us, for us, the audience, and he was brilliant in it. And Big Ed, of course, was his usual kind of like clumsy, awkward self, but of course it works.
As you can see, like Brilliant, though, he's like, okay, and he's like making like jokes and wisecracking, and so he's like, and he's just like frozen, and they're all just like fucking terrified, because like anybody who knows about Cordyceps fungus, right, like it gets into insects, it infects their brains, takes over their wiring, completely controls them, pretty much convinces them, puts them in a way that they'll walk into populated areas with healthy insects, and then it will explode out the top of the insect's head and shoot spores everywhere, so it can spread its infection.
And it actually make the insect climb high, to die.
Yeah, so
that when the spores give way, that they can land on the most amount of land mass.
It's so prevalent that nearly every insect species has its own species of Cordyceps fungus that infects it. All those different types of species, and it's so prevalent as well that in ant colonies they'll actually carry away sick ants, so when they explode they're nowhere near the colony. It is crazy, man, when you set this up. And I thought the tone of the show was captured perfectly in the intro, that it's the situation when you get into a kind of, I was trying not to say situation again, but I was like, it's when you get into this kind of instant where it's beyond your imagination, and then when you have it explained to you in the sense of what if the world got hotter, like you just said, and then it's just like, oh shit. Like imagine, like you hear all the horrific facts laid out and you're like, but I can never switch to humans. It's impossible, right? I don't have to worry about all the horrific things as insects. It's like, like what do I have to worry about? And then you go, it just needs one little element change.
Yeah, one little degree of temperature, of moisture in the air, or whatever it is. Just it's not that far away.
And then you can, you know what I mean? We can become suitable hosts, and then like it's just such a horrific thing, and it's crazy. It's crazy that it actually exists in our world. That's not an invention of Neil Druckmann. That like he didn't come up with the cordyceps fungus, but the way he conveyed it and portrayed it in his story was so artfully done in the game. I missed the spores a little bit, but you can't have an old Inception where people are running around with gas masks on 24/7. So I can understand why he changed it up. But like, I just think the show is a great stepping stone. Could have done with a couple more episodes. Could have done with a few more creatures. The
It
cast,
could have done with two in my
yeah,
head, 2 episodes.
yeah, 2 episodes
It
more,
really
yeah,
solidified
or
their
even
relationship.
like 12, because then you don't mind the
What
filler
was it? It was
episodes.
9, so
Yeah,
3. You were saying 3, yeah.
give me 10 episodes with Ellie and Joel, and then you can still have episode 3, and you can have the episode with Riley. But I think
Yeah.
that would have been better told as flashbacks. And as I said, you have the culmination of her immunity coinciding with her sacrifice for humanity, and then you pretty much you have Joel coming through, and then Joel goes and starts wiping out everyone. And then I think that's how I would have done it. I would have led through the whole series as the backbone, her coming to terms with her sexuality and her immunity and all these things that were so important to her as a person. But like, that's the only issues I have. One or two little things, time management issues like that. But like, it's a fantastic show. It's a great basis for a series going forward. And do you have anything else to say? We get the fuck out here.
No, I think we need to worry about our time management.
Yeah. All right, folks. I'm your host, Vincent Green.
I'm your host, Nolton, too.
That was Invasion of Potty Snatchers, and that was The Last of Us. Check it out if you haven't played
But
the
it's not
games.
The Last of Us.
I like it. But check it out. It's if you haven't played the games, they're completely different in a lot of ways, but they're so similar in so many ways. But you definitely need to play these games if you haven't played them. If you're a gamer at all and you haven't played them, it's insanity. Noel, do you want to tell the folks where they can find us before you get out of here?
You can find us on YouTube. You can find us on Spotify, and you can, of course, we release what, bi-weekly?
No, weekly.
2 times a week.
No, sometimes we drop bonus episodes. If you want to catch us on Wednesdays, where our main episodes will drop moving forward, and Fridays sometimes we drop bonus episodes like rankers or whatever we got lying around, pretty much. So that's about it, really. All right, folks. Hit like, subscribe, comment, all that shit helps the channel.
We will read the comments. We will reply to the comments. And not all of them, of course, if there's a lot, but we will. Please interact with us because we like you.
Yeah. All right, folks. See you next time. That's The Last of Us. Invasion of Potty Snatchers. Peace.
Peace.